Can you still feel the electric thrill of slipping into a pair of stonewashed jeans or the proud rush of pinning on your favorite neon scrunchie? The 1980s were a kaleidoscope of bold colors, oversized shoulders, and fearless individuality, a decade when you could express yourself with everything from parachute pants to members-only jackets. Every mall seemed to buzz with the scent of new denim and aquanet, the pulse of synth pop echoing from shop speakers. Fashion in the 80s wasn't just about clothes, it was a statement, a badge of your tribe, a chance to rebel or to fit in. Remember the rush of lacing up high-top sneakers before heading off to a roller rink, or the satisfying snap of your slap bracelet? These choices shaped the soundtrack and the style of a generation. Maybe you rocked leg warmers for aerobics, or layered enough jelly bracelets to jingle with each step. Did you chase every new trend, or stick with your own signature look? As we rewind the colors, fabrics, and unforgettable silhouettes of the 1980s, let's see which of these daring styles still spark a memory, perhaps even a little envy, today. The journey into 1980s fashion didn't begin with a sudden explosion of day-glow and shoulder pads. It grew out of the shifting sands of the late 70s, a time of disco balls, punk rebellion, and economic uncertainty that left Americans eager for change. As a new decade rolled in, fashion became one of the most vibrant canvases for that transformation. The days of bell-bottom jeans and flower power were fading, and something bolder was in the air, ready to take over closet space and cultural imagination alike. For those who lived through it, just walking down Main Street in 1981 might have felt like stepping onto a new frontier, where anything, absolutely anything, seemed possible, especially when it came to what you wore. The early 80s drew their first threads from two very different worlds: the last gasp of glamorous 70s disco and the raw energy of underground punk and new wave. On one side, you had shiny, form-fitting fabrics, sequins, and metallics. Think Donna Summer at Studio 54, glimmering under a spinning disco ball. On the other, there were ripped tees, studded jackets, and Doc Martens, signaling a more rebellious, do-it-yourself attitude. This clash and cross-pollination created a unique style DNA that would soon burst into full color across America's malls and main streets. Surprisingly, the earliest wave of 80s fashion found much of its inspiration not on the runways of Paris or New York, but on the stages of music videos and in the lyrics of chart-topping hits. The dawn of MTV in 1981 unleashed a visual revolution. Young Americans no longer had to imagine what their favorite stars wore. They could see it up close every day and aspire to dress just as boldly. Icons like Madonna, Michael Jackson, and Cyndi Lauper weren't just musical pioneers. They became unwitting architects of youth fashion, introducing layered lace gloves, military jackets, fingerless gloves, and plenty of glitter. Did you ever find yourself trying to recreate a music video look, maybe with a borrowed leather jacket or some makeshift bangles? Suddenly there wasn't a single path for dressing right. There were dozens. This era democratized style, breaking down the strict dress codes that had governed previous generations. Another unexpected engine behind early 80s fashion was the shifting economic landscape. The beginning of the decade saw a recession, with unemployment and inflation making headlines. You might think this would lead to more modest trends, but the opposite turned out to be true. Fashion became brighter, bolder, a defiant declaration that tough times couldn't dampen creativity or joy. Discount retailers and mall shops rose to prominence, making trendy clothes more accessible. Remember Gold Circle or Chess King? These places became weekend hangouts, the scenes of so many first fashion experiments, whether you were brave enough to buy a fluorescent pink shirt or just browsed with friends, laughing at the wildest outfits on display. And then there was the sudden mainstreaming of athletic wear. The fitness craze that began in the late 70s, helped along by the likes of Jane Fonda's workout tapes and a newfound obsession with jogging and aerobics, exploded in the early 80s. Spandex left the gym and strutted straight into everyday life. Sweatbands, leg warmers, and those slouchy off-the-shoulder sweatshirts you'd see in Flashdance. Who knew exercise attire could become a fashion statement on its own? Did you ever wear a tracksuit just because it felt of the moment, even if you had no intention of breaking a sweat? What's truly remarkable about this phase is how quickly top designers and big companies noticed the mood shift and raced to keep up. Clothing brands that sounded impossibly exotic in the 70s found a new home in department stores across America. Calvin Klein, Esprit, Jordache, Benetton, and Guess. Their logos became status symbols, sometimes outshining the clothes themselves. A little triangle on the pocket of your jeans could set you apart in any school hallway or make you wish you had one. But that's not all, because as these brands gained steam, so did the little-known shops and flea market stands where the truly adventurous and thrifty built their wardrobes from scratch, decorating denim jackets with pins, badges, and patches. Surprisingly, this era also saw an uptick in homemade fashion. Maybe you or someone you knew ironed on a patch, tie-dyed a t-shirt, or even pieced together a Halloween costume from thrift store treasures that became everyday wear. Suddenly, making it your own didn't just mean choosing a color scheme, it meant chopping off sleeves, sewing on sequins, and declaring with every outfit, "This is who I am." Did you ever customize an old shirt or pair of jeans, hoping to capture a bit of that MTV magic? Beyond the stores and television screens, movies were another powerhouse in shaping how America dressed. Films like Flashdance, The Breakfast Club, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off weren't just hit comedies or dramas, they became style Bibles. Suddenly, a cut-off sweatshirt or a peacoat had an association far beyond the fabric. Young people everywhere imitated the relaxed, rebellious confidence of Molly Ringwald or the charisma of John Hughes. Beloved misfits. Two surprising facts from this earliest chapter of 80s style. First, the original members-only jacket, the lightweight racer for which so many people lined up, wasn't initially marketed for adults at all. It took a sudden surge in TV and movie product placement to make it a staple of suburban dads as much as teenagers. And second, iconic Swatch watches with their pastel faces and stackable rubber bands were predicted in 1982 by some experts to be a passing fad. They sold so well that by 1985, over 20 million Americans were wearing one every day. Through all these changes, fashion continued to mirror deeper cultural shifts. The rise of women in the workforce led to the widespread embrace of power dressing. Sharply tailored blazers, padded shoulders, and boardroom chic entered everyday wardrobes, signifying growing confidence and ambition. For the first time, the phrase "dress for success" meant something personal for millions. Your outfit could open doors as much as your resume. Did you try on a blazer with padded shoulders, feeling both a little silly and incredibly powerful for the first time? But underneath the wild patterns and bright colors, the real legacy of early 80s fashion is a spirit of rebellion, a desire to stand out, to connect, and above all, to have a little fun while doing it. By the time 1983 rolled around, parents shook their heads at trends they found baffling, while box stores scrambled to keep up with a generation that simply refused to play it safe. Remember how it felt to push the limits just a bit, to wear something that made you look in the mirror and think, "This is different, this is me." Yet, as much as fashion was a whirlwind of new ideas, the seeds planted in these early years would soon blossom into some of the most recognizable, and let's be honest, sometimes outrageous, styles of the 20th century. And as the decade progressed, technology and pop culture would only add more fuel to the fire. So how did this burst of creative energy transform our wardrobes and even our sense of identity? The next chapter of 80s fashion is about get a whole lot brighter. As we look back on the bold, unforgettable world of 1980s fashion, it's hard not to smile at just how much of our spirit was stitched into every colorful detail. From the early days when disco's shimmer gave way to the daring experiments of New Wave and MTV, all the way through the era's vibrant peak, fashion became the ultimate way to stand out, belong, and have a little fun all at once. We covered the rise of stonewashed denim and the unstoppable reign of the power suit, the explosion of athletic wear into everyday life, and the thrilling moment when accessories, layered plastic bracelets, chunky earrings, those ever-present swatches, were just as important as your shirt or jacket. Music videos gave us permission to mix lace with leather, neon with plaid, and runways soon spilled their influence into malls, department stores, and even our living rooms as we watched style evolve. In real time, every trip to the mall, every magazine page turned, seemed to invite us to be bolder, braver, even a little bit rebellious. But this wasn't just about chasing trends or filling our closets with fleeting fads. Underneath the wild patterns and exaggerated silhouettes was a powerful current of self-expression. The 80s taught us that fashion could be both a shield and an invitation, protecting us as we navigated the tough parts of growing up and reaching out to others who embraced the same fluorescent colors, the same high tops or bomber jackets. There was a camaraderie in seeing your classmates in similar gear, a real sense that together we were inventing a new language without even speaking a word. For many of us, these were the years when we first experimented with who we wanted to be, sometimes getting it spectacularly right, other times looking back and shaking our heads at a yearbook photo, but always learning and growing through it all. What's remarkable looking back is not just how iconic those looks remain, but how the feelings they inspired linger on. Maybe you still have a favorite old concert tee tucked away in a drawer, or you catch a glimpse of a familiar accessory at a vintage shop and feel a flood of sweet memories. Maybe you recognize that spark in your children or grandchildren when they discover scrunchies and acid-wash jeans for themselves. The decades may change, but that magic, the joy of fashion as personal storytelling, remains timeless. Remember, the true heart of 80s fashion was never about perfection, but about trying, laughing, and daring to be just a little different. So, which trend made you feel like your most authentic self? Did your favorite piece of clothing help you make a friend, or give you the confidence to take on something new? We'd love to hear your stories. Share your fondest or funniest 80s fashion memories in the comments below. Did you have a signature look? Or was every week a new adventure? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more journeys through the eras that shaped us. And if you know someone who'd love this trip down memory lane, pass it along. It's always more fun to reminisce together. After all, in every stitch, zipper, and bold-colored sock, the 80s taught us to embrace our quirks and make each day just a little more vivid. Until next time, keep a bit of that neon glow in your heart. And remember, fashion fades, but the memories you make in them last forever.